Hello, welcome back to Nine Little Aussies. I'm Chrissy and today I'm doing something totally different. I have my friend Treasure here with me. Treasure lives just up the road on a farm, the farm at Bald Hill. And we have become friends since living here and found out we have a lot in common, a lot of common goals and a lot of common thoughts about our food and growing it and all those things. So I thought it would be fun to introduce you guys to Treasure and for you to be able to hear her story because it's really interesting. So thank you, Treasure.
Yeah, thank you.
Here.
I'm excited to be here. Hey guys, I'm very excited to be here. I haven't done an interview before live, so
no, it's awesome.
Fun.
It's cool. So maybe to start off with, do you want to just introduce yourself and maybe your little farm and what you guys are doing over there?
Okay, cool. So my name is Treasure Hanse, and yes, that's my given name. My partner.
It's a beautiful name.
Thank
I love
you.
your name.
Thanks. Have I ever told you the story about?
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
So my partner Justin and I have a regenerative farm. As the crow flies, it's probably 1 minute.
Yeah, it's not far at all.
From Chrissy and Mike and the family, and we raise grass-finished beef, pastured pork, pastured eggs, grass-finished lamb, and pastured chicken. Chicken's new to us. We rotate our animals regularly. We no hormones, no antibiotics, no pesticides, no herbicides, no fungicides on our pastures, nothing ending in a side. Like I said, no hormones, no antibiotics, no mRNAs, no injections of any kind. The pigs and chickens are on a non-soy, non-GMO supplemental feed. We started this a little over 5 years ago, and we've been selling at farmers markets in Houston and Galveston for well over 2 years now.
Yeah, that's so awesome. So how did you guys end up farming? Because you weren't always farmers.
No, and neither Justin nor myself have an agricultural background. Justin had an IT company, and I came from small business development, mostly, like we were just talking about, salon industry.
Yeah.
So completely opposite.
Yes.
I would joke and say that I had a black thumb. I could not grow anything. I couldn't even grow succulents. They would die within a couple of days.
Yeah.
And when I met Justin, he still had his IT firm, and then we've known each other for about 12, 13 years, maybe longer than that. And he sold his IT firm 7 years ago, and his father had purchased this property as his retirement home. And Justin wasn't really sure what he was going to do, and he read some articles and some books by Joel Salatin, and got really into regenerative farming and started learning everything he could, and then told his dad that that's what he wanted to do. So he moved up here 7 years ago, and then when we started dating a little over 5 years ago, I was just so interested in what he was doing without knowing anything about. I've always been interested in where my food comes from and nutrition and environmental impact of everything, and I've always been environmentally conscious, but knowing more about regenerative agriculture, a term I'd never heard before nor really cared about because I didn't really eat meat at all. It just fascinated me, and so I quit my job in Houston 2 years ago, and we're both fully focused on this.
So cool. I just find that fascinating. So tell me, because you just alluded to it a little there, that so you've always been interested in the environmental impacts, but you didn't used to eat meat.
Right.
So tell us about that. How that came about.
I never liked meat as a child. Growing up, never really. I grew up in southern Louisiana, so for those of you who are in Australia watching or another country, southern Louisiana is Cajun food, and so I did eat, when I was younger, I would eat raw oysters. I never liked crawfish. I liked duck occasionally, a duck and andouille gumbo, red beans and rice, but I wouldn't eat the sausage in it. I just never really cared for meat, and the older I got, and then about 2 years prior to meeting Justin, I really just had quit eating meat altogether for the most part. I didn't like the way it made me. I didn't like the way it tasted, and then also the impact of like, well, how these animals are raised. You know, I didn't really know. A lot of it had to do with that. I had a very, very large dog at that time, and all I could think about were four-legged animals reminding me of my dog.
Okay.
So, and then once I learned more about the way animals are being produced, especially regenerative farms, I started eating meat, and now we're making steaks tonight, and I can't get enough meat in my diet, and I feel stronger both mentally and physically than I've ever felt in my life.
Yeah. So you weren't on a vegan diet so much for health reasons or anything like that. It was more your concern about the animals and the way they were being treated.
Animals, and it just didn't seem right. It just didn't. I think I never really had good quality meat. Was a lot of it too, especially beef.
Yes.
Beef was something that I never ever cared for, and that's, you know, if I were before I had kind of quit eating meat altogether. If I were to eat something, I would eat, you know, bacon or chicken were my go-tos.
Yeah.
But then I kind of backed away from that some for a couple of years, and it's but now, you know, I can't, like, our beef is grass finished, which is natural, and that you can actually taste the earthiness in it, and the flavor and everything comes out rather than just more of like a chemical taste to it.
Yes, I know what you mean, because I don't know if I've told you this story, but I grew up on a property where my father, he raised all of our own meat, and he slaughtered it himself. And then when I was 17, we moved to the city. And it was the first time I'd really encountered, now I probably had it like at friends' places or whatever, but I don't really remember that. And I remember having bought meat for the first time when I was 17 and commenting to my parents, like, this doesn't taste right. This tastes so strange.
Yeah.
It's so funny. It must all be to do with that, you know, the way it is raised, but then the way it's finished as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Justin and I just tested out, bought some Wagyu a couple of months ago from the farmer's market in Houston. So it's good quality Wagyu. I gave it to the dog because I took a couple of bites and I'm like, I can taste the difference in it. And it just doesn't taste as fresh. And I think maybe that's just what my body needs is I need that freshness and that flavor actually coming through of, like, this animal was raised how it was supposed to be raised. It was processed. It had a great life, you know, and I think that comes through in the meat and in the animal.
So what was it about the regenerative way of farming that really appealed to you, or that was the trigger that kind of changed your thinking to, oh, hang on, maybe I want to try this?
I think it's being in nature and really working with the animals and having the animals do what they're supposed to be doing. You know, it's all about having this symbiosis with nature and this connection with the earth, and that's what I think regenerative agriculture is about. It's about removing all of those artificial inputs, removing, you know, any man-made chemicals, anything that we could be doing to manipulate the natural pattern of of animals in general. I mean, even the wildlife, the birds, the bees, you know, the soil, the worms, everything. It's like just really having that interconnectedness between everything is what's most appealing to me. And growing healthy foods for people is a bonus that I don't think I really thought about whenever we started doing it, like the impact that would have on me personally, meeting people at markets and connecting with people who I have one customer in Houston who she's had 2 heart surgeries, and she buys sirloin steaks from us. She'll stock up, she buys 10, you know, maybe every 6 weeks, because it's the only meat she can eat. And her doctor told her to eat grass finished beef, and she found our farm, and that's her go-to. And knowing that we're helping people heal is incredible.
So what do you think, from your understanding, what is it about pasture-raised, grass-fed and grass-finished, and without all the chemicals, what is it that makes that healing to people?
When you let the cow live on grass and not finish on grain, the nutrients in the meat, it's a lot higher. I know vitamin E is one in particular that's really good for brain health. Your vitamin E, they've run tests between grass finished and grain finished, and grass finished has more vitamin E. The protein content, everything that you're getting is going to be more robust in grass finished. cows on grain are unhealthy. You're eating an obese, unhealthy cow. It's basically like someone eating a fast food diet for the last couple of months of their life. And when you finish a cow on grain, which fattens them up, it speeds up the process, so more people can have meat, have beef. But what you're doing in turn is all of this inflammation of these grain finished cows thus gets transferred into the meat that humans eat, and it causes so many more diseases. I mean, I was listening to a podcast today, Dr. Mark Hyman, he's a big functional medicine doctor, and they were talking about what you eat and your cognitive patterns and mental illness, and all of it is related to inflammation in your system. And Michael Pollan said, it's not just what you eat, it's what you eat eats. And I mean, live by that.
Yes.
And and that includes plants too. You know, if your plants are heavily sprayed with pesticides, you're ingesting that in some form.
That's right.
I mean, even if it's trace amounts over time, that's going to end up in your system. And I think
and then it can't get out again and builds up. And
I think that's so much of the health issues, especially in the United States. I mean, that's why we have such a, heart problems, obesity, diabetes. So much of it is diet related and inflammatory.
Yes, I think inflammation is huge. To the point we don't even realize the degree to which we're inflamed until I know for myself, I didn't realize how much inflammation I had until I removed those things that were causing it. And it's like, oh wow, I feel really great.
Yeah. Well, and this podcast in particular today, talking about that, like the brain gets inflamed as well. And that is now they're linking that to Alzheimer's, dementia, depression, anxiety. The more people are being diagnosed with ADHD, with autism, a lot of that is inflammatory based. But your brain, like when your body's inflamed, you have your knee hurts and it's inflamed, and you can tell, you go buy an anti-inflammatory. But your brain, there's no way to tell that it's inflamed. It doesn't hurt.
Yes.
So they're doing a lot more research in that area to see how that inflammation really impacts your mental and cognitive.
Yeah. And anxiety and stress levels are like off the charts in society now.
I blame
so
social
many
media
people.
for some of that.
Yes. Yes.
Social media and what we're eating. And it's if something's wrong, take this pill. Take this pill. Let's not figure out why something's wrong. Let's treat the symptom, not figure out the root.
100%. Yeah. It's a band-aid approach, and it doesn't actually solve anything. A lot of times those things just continue to accumulate and build up under the surface until you have some kind of crisis and everything falls apart. Yeah. But it's great that there are so many more people looking for these holistic, regenerative foods, and I think there's seems to be a lot more education around it these days than there was even a decade ago. A lot more knowledge. What have you seen, especially because you're in these big markets in Houston? You talk to a lot of people. Do you feel like that is accurate? Is there more education? Are people becoming more aware? Or are we still, is there still a lot of ignorance on these issues?
I think that the people shopping at the markets are seeking awareness. I still think there's a lot of ignorance because you have a lot of people who do not even know where a local farmer's market is. And I don't think that's ignorance. It's just, it's a lack of availability to education, and people trust, why they wouldn't make the food if it wasn't, if it was good for us, and the cost. I mean, the cost is insane.
It's prohibitive.
It's crazy. And what a lot of people don't know, especially people who are on the SNAP program, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program in the United States, farmers markets accept that. A lot of farmers markets will accept that. So you can use your money for people who are having financial difficulties and are on, need assistance. They can use their money, their SNAP money at farmers markets, which
is excellent.
And the farmers markets that we participate in, which are Urban Harvest and Galveston's own farmers market, they both do a lot of education and outreach to really promote healthy eating. I've only been doing the markets for a little over 2 years, but I do think that I've seen more and more people using the term regenerative, looking for grass finished, which is key. Grass fed has become a big greenwashing term. All beef is grass fed.
Yeah,
Even
absolutely.
feedlot beef can be called grass fed, because it's fed. Yeah, it's fed grass at the beginning of their lives.
Yeah.
And what people are looking for is grass finished, but they come up asking if our beef is grass fed, and then I tell them, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much." So I think that that's a big, more awareness around grass finished, because people are asking for grass fed, so they are listening.
Yeah.
But I think that just making sure that the correct information is being, being put out there is really important. We do have doctors that prescribe the farmers markets for their patients, which is great.
That's great.
Yeah, I have a neurologist in particular that's a Houston-based neurologist that practices more of a Ayurvedic and like Eastern Western mix of neurology, and she actually brings patients to the market and walks them around and introduces them to vendors, and
that's
it's
fantastic.
Amazing. It's amazing, and more doctors are bringing patients to the markets, which is wonderful. Prescribing food as medicine.
Yes, that is great. What do you think is because like you said, people that come to the markets are probably already seeking, right? They're already looking for answers, or they've had some kind of trigger that makes them think, oh, hang on, I need to look for something different. So for your average person, your average Joe in the street, what do we need to do to increase awareness? Because like you said too, people have the attitude of, oh, well, if it's in the shops, it must be safe. If they're selling it, it must be, if the FDA has approved it, it must be okay.
Yeah.
So, and I know there's probably no easy answer to this question, but it is something I think about, because a lot of people I converse with, in a week-to-week basis, it's not on their radar at all.
Yeah, even my parents, to some extent, and my family. I think that people who are aware of it with your food dollar, get involved, call your representatives, call your legislator, call people to make sure that they know that if you are concerned about it, which we should all be concerned about it, and then more and more awareness will grow from that. I feel like the new farm bill should be passed any day now, and it's a GOP-led farm bill, so I don't really know what exactly has passed and what hasn't yet, but that's every 4 years. The United States
Okay, I
has
was going to say, tell me about that, because I'm not familiar with that.
The farm bill is every 4 years. It's the USDA. It covers a lot of the supplemental nutrition assistance program will fall under that. School lunches, a lot of the nutrition going on for the general public is under that. It also affects small farms and ranchers. It affects large farms and ranchers. There's the mandatory electronic ID tagging for cattle that they're trying to pass.
Yes, I have read about that.
Yes. The Prime Act, which is the mobile or custom slaughter and creating more accessibility for small farms to be able to process their animals. There's laws or bills like that in the farm bill that will really dictate the future of if we do get support for more regenerative farming, climate smart program, the conservation efforts, things like that through farming and ranching.
So do you think, you said that's in the process right now, is that looking helpful at the moment? Is it looking like it's headed in the right direction for regenerative farming, or is it not?
I have not read anything, recently. I've read things that they've tried to include in it, but I don't know exactly where it is right now. It was supposed to pass by the end of 23, and then it was pushed to, I think that, it's any day now. So there are people really pushing for more funding available for conservation through farming and ranching, through, helping people who are doing more sustainable farming and ranching. So.
Yeah, well,
hopefully.
So.
Yeah.
So that kind of brings me to the next question. The next thing I thought it'd be good to talk about is you are currently studying as well.
Yes.
can you tell us what you're studying for starters, and then we'll go from there.
So I am finishing a master's program at Stephen F. Austin, which is in Nacogdoches, Texas's oldest city. Did you know that?
I did actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. I love Nacogdoches.
It's so pretty.
It is beautiful.
It's a cute little area. In sustainability, it's a master's of interdisciplinary studies in sustainability, agriculture, and public administration.
Okay.
So what it is, I got my undergrad over 20 years ago and never, ever thought about going to school, back to school. And I saw there's a newsletter that I subscribe to called the Citizens Environmental Coalition. It's a group based out of Houston.
Okay. And
they had a little blurb about a sustainability program at Stephen F. Austin, and it was a certification, 4 semesters. And I was like, oh, that looks interesting. Let me look into that. I didn't know that that was a thing that you could get certified in. And, and I was working in small business development, and not that I was doing anything sustainable, but, I would try to initiate recycling initiatives or let's reduce waste, things like that. And so I enrolled in one class, Introduction to Sustainability, and loved it, and decided to go for my master's, and I'm almost done, and I'm writing my thesis on really expanding regenerative agriculture practices in Deep East Texas, and I would love to, several universities around the United States have these little resource hubs linked through the university.
Okay.
And I would really love to see something like that happen at SFA.
Yeah.
And SFA now is under the University of Texas systems, and the reason that UT wanted to partner with SFA is because the agricultural program is so strong, and they wanted to compete with Texas A&M.
Okay.
And so I'm hoping that with that money from UT and UT's stance on sustainability, environmentalism, they've got really strong programs in that, that they'll really push for more of a regenerative or at least sustainable farming and agricultural practices at SFA.
So how is the whole regenerative farming notion and ideas and what you guys are doing, how is that accepted in that world, in the university and in the course about sustainability? Like, are they seeing the benefits of that? Are they embracing that?
The sustainability, yes, absolutely. The agricultural program at SFA, no.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
It's all very still traditional, commercial, big ag. Which is why I'm hopeful that with this UT money and influence coming in, there will be more of a shift, because there are some universities that have fantastic regenerative agricultural programs. It's just East Texas is slower to adopt things, and I think that's part of it. And I don't, I think a lot of farmers in this area, I see more and more regenerative farms popping up, or at least sustainable, maybe not full on regenerative, but implementing some of the practices, which that's also kind of a loose term too. It's like, what is regenerative?
I was just going to go there, because it is bandied about a lot now, that term. And, it used to be, it was all about organic, or it was all about, there's been over the years a lot of different terms that then it's like someone captures it and uses it for marketing. And then it becomes maybe not what it was first intended to be.
Right.
So when you say regenerative agriculture, how are you defining that? What would you say that means?
So there are multiple definitions out there and what it entails, but mostly it is working with nature, not against it. A lot of it's rotational grazing, which is rotating your animals regularly to improve soil health. Regenerative agriculture is mostly, it's about improving soil health, is bottom line. That's what it is. The ways to get there: cover cropping, no-till, minimal till, multi-species grazing.
So there might be different practices.
There are different practices, but I think if you employ at least one or two of those, then you can consider yourself regenerative and, get there. Yes, that's actually something in my thesis my mentor and I were walking through yesterday. It's like, what definition do we want to use in that? So it's a lot of, it's like organic. Like organic, you can use some chemical in it, It's just kind of, it's just this kind
acceptable
of gray term.
Levels.
Yeah, acceptable levels, and it's a very, very expensive expensive certification to get. So I feel like if you're truly
Yes.
doing any regenerative practices, you're better than organic.
Yeah. Well, it's like these blueberries are from my little ones and I went to a farm just, I don't know, 20 minutes away this morning and picked blueberries. It was so fun. Like, we're going to go back.
Yeah, I want
But
to go.
yeah, you're going to come. So I called the lady because I didn't think to ask it when I was there. I called her back and I said, I just want to ask you, do you spray any herbicides, pesticides, anything like that on your land? And she said, no, we absolutely do not. She said, we considered going down the route of organic certification, but she said there was so much red tape, it was so expensive. So we just decided to word of mouth tell people. But she said when we planted these blueberries, we were thinking about our grandbabies. And we want them to be able to walk through and just eat.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was wonderful, especially considering
gave
his
me
how. Yeah, I know, me too. So, and I said to her, well, to be honest, I don't really trust the organic label anyway. And I would rather just call and speak to the farmer and say, hey, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
And what are your practices? What do you or do you not do? What things do you say no to? Yeah, I think it's much more reliable.
Well, and I've had a couple of people ask me about it at the farmers market lately. Like, how's your meat any different from what I get at Whole Foods? I'm like, is the person selling it to you at Whole Foods actually growing the animal?
Yeah.
Like, are they on the land? I don't know. Like, I don't know what they're doing. Like, I have no idea what is going into that. It's, you know, there's all of this with the country of origin labeling that came out, where animals could be born and grown in other countries and then shipped to the U.S. to be processed.
Yeah.
And then it's considered a product of the USA.
Yeah.
And
it's so misleading.
It's so misleading.
Yeah.
And so, you can't really trust the labels. I mean, the best way to know exactly where your food's coming from is to know who's growing your food.
Yeah. Talk to the farmer.
Yeah, talk to the farmer.
Yeah. Or the rancher.
Yes.
That's what you say here. Rancher.
Yeah. I mean, we call ourselves a farm. But
yeah.
I feel like in Texas, if it's over, I don't know, a couple of 100 acres, then you're a ranch.
Okay,
but
yeah.
under that, it's a farm.
It's a farm.
I don't
Okay.
know. That's just Justin and I've had this conversation. I'm like,
Yeah.
I guess that works.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So I guess you would have a really good view of this, both because you've studied all this and you are aware of what's going on legislatively and in the universities and in, the think tanks and all that. But at the same time, you're actually on the ground operating a farm. So what would you say are the biggest things to be aware of if maybe you're a homesteader, like you're just growing your own food like we are, and you're thinking about taking that step from just gardening and growing animals and processing your own meat to turning it into a business or trying to make the homestead profitable in some way, even if it's just a small portion of it. Like, what are the things that you need to think about if you're wanting to walk that path?
Know your market for sure. Do your research. I know for you guys, like I've suggested going around to various farmers markets all around the area. Yeah, and just talking to the farmers there, getting some feedback about how the markets are going. If it is a market you're looking to get into, be really, really careful of the craft markets. So there are all of these farmers markets popping up that have popped up over the last several years that are more crafts, like you might be next to someone doing leather goods.
Right.
And I feel like Justin and I, when we first started, that was the only market we could get into, was one that was like that.
Yeah.
And I was very, very thankful for the opportunity to get some exposure, but it wasn't really our clientele.
Okay.
I do feel like the nonprofit markets, which are the two that we're in, they are nonprofit organizations.
Okay.
The integrity behind what they do, the community outreach, I feel like that's just so... It's just got a good feel to it. The energy is really good. The market's not there to make money off of their vendors. Make sure you have all of your permitting. You'll need, depending on what you're selling, you'll need the correct permitting, and just know that what you're doing is the right thing. You know, I think just having that belief in yourself and what you're doing and the passion for it is the most important thing.
Yeah. Do you think there are good opportunities for people starting out in this? You know, people like yourselves who, because you've been a couple years into it and didn't come from an agricultural background, and, you know, the whole scenery of the whole landscape of food and supermarkets, and like in the last 3 years with all of the lockdowns and food shortages and whatever else that was going on, people have maybe had their eyes opened a little bit more, but then I don't know if that's shifted again.
I think it's still there, and I think that the more and more people that start doing it and start talking about it and are creating awareness, then the better it's gonna get. And I mean, what I would love to see is that people shop at their farmers markets, and then you only go to the grocery store for your staples if you need to. And but a lot of people don't have that, you know, don't have that accessibility, you know, especially in small towns that don't have a farmers market. It's, you know, it's really just like bringing things back to community is such a big part of it as well, and really feeding your community. And that's Will Harris, who has White Oak Pastures in Georgia.
Okay.
He's a very well-known regenerative farmer. He's wonderful, and when he talks, his voice sounds like molasses. It's just got this like Georgia accent. I want him to talk me to sleep every night. Like, I just want to call him. Or Justin and I listened to. He wrote a book. Came out with a book in October, and Justin and I tried to listen to it on tape whenever on tape.
In my generation.
When we went to Arkansas for a couple of days over Thanksgiving, and it just almost put us to sleep in the car.
Yeah,
I was like, okay, we can't. But I'm like, I'm gonna have to listen to it. But his, you know, there's a big question about is this scalable? Is this really scalable? Is it attainable? Can we have grass finished cows have enough grass finished beef? And the thing is, Justin and I we didn't set out to feed the whole, you know, to feed a large, we want to feed we want to feed a community.
Yes.
We want to feed our community, and our community is Houston, because we're both from, you know, I lived in Houston for over 20 years, and he was born and raised there. So that's kind of our network. We do have more and more people reaching out from this area, which has been great, that have found us. We had a local guy come out on Sunday and buy meat, and we highly encourage that. But the thing with farming, that's what you used to do. People fed their community.
Yes,
absolutely. You didn't have accessibility to everything all the time, and that's
you
just
seasonally.
You eat seasonally, you eat locally. It's just, and people were healthier. I mean, the lifespan wasn't as long, but that was due to other factors.
Yes.
So it's not. I think that's. I mean, I want more and more people to start doing it, because it's just gonna, you know,
getting back to the local community and building that there. What do you think the biggest, the biggest thing prohibiting, or the biggest roadblock that people might face, that they need to be aware of and plan for?
Access to clean resources and access to capital.
Yeah.
I mean, those are two of the biggest ones. I mean, Justin and I are in the process right now. We're going to need to move the farm.
Yes.
And, you know, there are grants and things available. There are grants available for small farmers and ranchers, but neither of us are grant writers. And I don't, you know, I could take the time and write a grant, but that doesn't necessarily guarantee we would be approved for it. And I've done some through my thesis. I do have a survey that I'm sending out to people, and one of the biggest questions is, what are the biggest hurdles?
Yes.
And it's access to clean resources, access to capital and land are some of the biggest ones.
So clean resources, talk to me, what does that mean?
Non-GMO, non-soy feeds, hay that hasn't been sprayed if you don't have your own hay, things like that. It's just especially, you know, in small towns, you're not going to be able to find that.
Yeah.
So you have
available. To ship it in. Yeah. And even the non-GMO, non-soy, I was just reading this week about glyphosate levels being found in those feeds, that they're non-GMO, but they're still sprayed. And trying to find, and then, you know, can you even trust the organic label, like we were saying? So, yeah, it's it's a bit of a labyrinth
Yeah,
to navigate.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Well, and I think pricing too is reflective of, that's something too that I think it's reflective of the quality of the food, but we're not supposed to eat as big portions as we do, nor as much meat as we do. I mean, honestly, when you look at the portion size of especially meals in the United States, it's absurd.
Yeah.
And you should, I mean, I produce meat and I'm like, we still eat way too much. And so if people could scale that back and actually like focus on the healthier proteins and the healthier, you know, then I think that offsets the cost and what you will pay for it now in your food, but it'll help later whenever you're not paying as much in medical costs.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's
and then you do always have the option, if you have some land, of, you know, of trying to grow your own chickens or whatever. Yeah. But not everyone has that accessibility. Yeah. And there are options too, I suppose, because land was another thing you said. There are a lot. I can't remember the statistic. Joel Salatin was talking about how many, like, it's a mind-blowing number. I just can't remember the number of acres that are sitting dormant, unused, with nothing happening on them, that, you know, could be leased or could be, you know, some situation worked out with the owners.
Well, and that's one of the arguments too against grass finished that counters it, is because it's going to take so much land to do all of this grass finished beef, but there's also all of this land that cannot be used for anything else. And if you start regenerating that soil, that could be great pasture land for these animals.
Sure.
And there's a really great case study of Las Palmas Ranch in the Chihuahua, I think it's in the Chihuahuan Desert, where it was desertification. It was just complete desert. Yeah. And this rancher started using Holistic Management International, you know, regenerative practices, was able to regenerate the soil and now has a flourishing pasture land, like hundreds of acres.
That's so cool. I love that.
Yeah, and there's so many stories of that happening, like all of this land that you can't grow vegetables on, you can't build things on. I mean, the terrain is too unstable, but you know, you could run livestock on it. You could run, I mean, that's, you know. Yeah.
And that will feed people.
That will feed people.
Yeah. It's amazing to me how quickly the land heals itself. Like, just a little micro picture of that on our little piece of land here. And we just moved in September last year. And we really didn't do much the first couple of months because we were trying to fix the house up and stuff. And we haven't had any ruminants on the land yet. We've just got chickens, but we've been rotating them. And this pasture out here last season was a sea of bitterweed.
Oh, wow.
It was just full of bitterweed, like a sea of yellow. And bitterweed, I didn't know what that was till I moved here, but it is a weed that grows in poor soil. And this land had been heavily overgrazed by horses.
Okay.
And all that was on it was horses. And it was just kind of down to dirt. And we did have a really bad summer last summer, so that probably didn't help. But it was just bitterweed everywhere. And with us thinking about getting a dairy cow, we were like, this is not good. And all we have done is run the chickens over it. And I said to Mike the other day, I'm like, I can only see 1 or 2 little bitterweed plants. And the only thing we've done is run the chickens. Yeah. But just that manure and the disturbance, slight disturbance to the soil, and it's starting to heal in one season. Yeah. I mean, we still got a long way to go, but I can already see it.
And that's what's amazing. It doesn't take much. It's, you know, it really just does not take much to correct things.
And nature, what I always find so encouraging is that nature wants to heal and thrive.
Oh yeah.
And you give it the right ingredients and the right care, and it's actually really easy.
Yeah, definitely.
It's designed it knows what it needs.
Yeah.
You give it so that is cool. Well, this has been a really fun conversation. Thank you for coming along.
Finally got it done.
Yeah, we finally did. We've been trying to do this for
we had power outages.
Yes, and flooding rains.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it has. Well, thank you, Treasure. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
And if you guys happen to be in the Houston area, please go check out the markets. What are they called again?
Urban Harvest Farmers Market is every Saturday at Buffalo Speedway in Westheimer from 8 to noon. Houston's oldest and biggest farmers market. And then Galveston is on Sundays at 33rd and Market Street from 9 to noon.
Yeah. And online, they can find you at?
thefarmtx.com. And then social media is The Farm at Bald Hill.
Yes.
Yeah.
So go find them.
Yeah, thanks, y'all.
All right. We'll see you next time. Sunshine and raindrops until I see you again. Bye.
Bye.